So we move now into the final session of the programme, and I'm very pleased to hand over to Chuck to introduce the topic moving forward with global MCBK. Over to you, Chuck.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Philip. And I will be presenting just a few introductory slides, and then we will proceed with this closing session with some polls. I'll explain all of this in just a moment. So let's look back now on our journey over two sessions, which took place over 2 days. Yesterday, we had an introductory plenary session to begin where we explained the basic ideas underlying MCBK and the rationale for it. We've now had, well, we're on the verge of having had 6 keynote presentations. 5 of these have occurred, and 1 more will occur at session 2 for people in Asia and Australia primarily later today. So the complete meeting, when it's over, will have contained 6 keynote presentations. Across the 2 sessions spanning 2 parts of the world, we've heard 20 lightning talks, 10 in each session, and they were followed by small group discussions with presenters in separate Zoom rooms. Today we had thematic huddles in several breakout groups, 11 in number, and now we are in the closing session, which is going to focus on moving ahead with MCBK as a global movement. So this session will be in 2 parts. The first part, happening now, we will start on the IBM platform, and this will be a brief presentation. Actually, the slide isn't accurate, followed by 4 polls. And all 4 polls that we're going to take, and we will appreciate your input, will happen on the IBM platform. Then we are going to move to Zoom for greater interactivity and an open discussion regarding the directions we could take to bring MCBK to global scale. So let me reiterate that this slide is incorrect. We are starting on the IBM platform where we are now. There will be 4 polls taken still on the IBM platform. After all 4 polls are complete and we've discussed the results with you, we are going to take those results to a Zoom platform to allow greater interactivity, and this will all be explained about how to navigate to Zoom in just a bit after the polls. And then when we move to Zoom, we will have an open discussion about how to take MCBK to global scale. You've seen this slide. I'm not going to narrate it much further, just to reiterate the point that MCBK started 5 years ago and has had a meeting each year and really took off with the idea of becoming a global entity when interest and organization developed in the UK. Those of you who were here yesterday heard about the MCBK Manifesto, which was a truly consensus document developed at the 2018 meeting, which had as its vision these 4 ideas for mobilizing computable biomedical knowledge as part of a movement to achieve something that many believe to be absolutely necessary to improve individual and public health. The first aspect of the vision was to mobilize biomedical knowledge that can support action toward improving human health, and to do this would require making biomedical knowledge computable in addition to being human readable. Second part of the vision of the manifesto was to efficiently and equitably serve the learning and knowledge needs of all participants as well as the public good, taking us to the importance of working to reduce health disparities. Third part of the vision was to ensure that the knowledge that is made computable properly reflects the best and most current evidence, because with old or invalid knowledge, No one is going to get any healthier if that old and invalid knowledge is applied. And finally, achieving this through the evolution of an open ecosystem dedicated to making knowledge fair and trusted. What we've achieved so far over these 5 years is a community bound by the manifesto, interest that has spread around the world as evidenced by the 41 nations represented and the participants who registered for this meeting, a relationship to the Learning Health Systems Journal, which was discussed this morning, sharing of knowledge and best practices at the meetings, and also through subsequently published summaries and abstracts in the LHS Journal, as well as papers and white papers that have been published as part of this sharing and knowledge of best practices. So, to wrap up this brief introduction, where do we go from here? One vision of where we could go from here is a movement toward a federation of national, regional, and/or continental chapters of a global MCBK. We have a start in this direction with chapters having formed already in the US and the UK, as you heard about this morning. We know from discussions, participation, and other indicators that there is interest in forming MCBK chapters in Australia and also in China, as we heard from the keynote from Lu Shijing and Guilan Kang. And the idea is not to have heavy top-down governance of this federation, instead to have lightweight governance providing a coordination across these chapters that would be functioning to a significant extent independently, although not totally independently, to meet the needs of their countries, regions, or continents, depending upon the scale at which these chapters exist. This is just one vision, and when we move into our discussion in just a bit, and guided by the polls that are about to happen, we would really be very well informed and very grateful for your input and ideas about how all of this is best done. So with those remarks as an introduction, let me turn things over to Philip, who will introduce the polls.
Great, thank you very much, Chuck. So we have a series of questions we'd like to put to you now. The first two questions, my script says, will be asked through the Mentimeter platform. I hope that's still right, given what you said earlier, Chuck. So this allows you to kind of use free text rather than just answer structured questions. And our moderator will post these for you. So we see the first code there. So the instruction is to go to menti.com and use the code that's shown on your screen. So the question is, what are the highest priority goals for MCBK? So this is something where it's very important that we get your thoughts. We want to know, you know, in your words, your sense, where do you see the biggest priorities? And we've heard, you know, so many different aspects of MCBK over the course of this conference. We've had emphasis on culture change, transformation, the technical standards, the infrastructure, all of these aspects which are necessary for the MCBK vision to be realised. Okay, so we're beginning to see some comments come through on the responses, so let's keep them coming through. So just to warm you up, ready for the next question. When we get to the next question, we'll be asking how we turn those goals into concrete steps. So what are the specific actions we think we want to take to realise these goals? So we're moving there from kind of these broad goals, the long-term purpose, the long-term aim, and then how we turn that into concrete steps. So seeing some more comments come through now, which is great, so please keep them coming in. Highest priority goals, in your own words, in your setting, in your environment, where do you see priorities coming through? So we'll give you some more time to keep this coming. Great to get the input. Okay, the trickle is becoming a flood now as the comments are coming through. That's great. So I think it's a really important opportunity here for us to get, as Chuck was outlining, a global perspective on priority. Obviously, so many things get done by top-down programs. Governments have priorities, industry has priorities, but we are a global group. We represent multi-stakeholders, multiple perspectives, and this is a fantastic opportunity to get those priority goals articulated. And given that this is all really about learning health systems, I think as Aziz nicely highlighted in the keynote, not just learning healthcare systems, as we sometimes are tempted to say, if we're thinking about learning health systems, that broadens our perspective even more. We're thinking about the whole public health agenda. And I think the pandemic has kind of opened our eyes to the art of the possible. It's also highlighted a number of the gaps that we need to address if we're going to move things forward. We've certainly moved forward data science. Have we moved forward computable knowledge in the same way? Well, we've certainly made progress in MCBK, but where do we need to go next? What are the things we should be pushing on? So I'm going to keep giving you the opportunity to contribute as we're still getting comments flowing through. Good to see these things. Okay, so interesting mention of global perspectives. Certainly low and middle income countries sometimes get forgotten. I think that's a fair comment somebody's made, that if we focus on the affluent healthcare systems of health systems, I should say, of the developed countries, we do sometimes miss out the global perspective. Okay. So let's move on to the next question now, I think. So our second poll question then is, how do we turn those goals into concrete steps? So what concrete steps can we take in the next 3 or 6 or 12 months to advance global or regional or local MCBK as a movement? So a great flood of comments there about the goals. So what are the steps we need to take to achieve those goals? And there may be some very short-term wins. There may be stuff we can do over the Northern Hemisphere summer. There may be stuff we can do in 6 months, longer term, well, medium term, 12-month approaches. So obviously we're ultimately talking here about a mindset change. We're talking about strategy. We're talking about the longer term sustainable future. But where are we starting? So please have a think about what you can tell us about turning those goals into concrete actions. So again, priorities are going to vary depending on where you are, depending on your country, your culture, your industry, your socio-economic and health needs. So what are we going to be doing for your region, for your country, and to link those things together as a global strategy? And I think with what Chuck was describing as a potential vision, where we're looking as a federated approach at a lightweight, collaborative coalition rather than probably a strictly formal organizational structure, that's certainly something where there's an openness to a variety of approaches, a variety of steps that we can take. So we're having some good responses here, some nice definite ideas coming through around repositories, around technical standards, around global working groups, demonstration projects, industry participation. So that's a really good set of steps coming through now. Okay, so I think we should probably move on now to our next questions. So our next 2 questions are multiple choice, and these should come up on your screen as you're watching the broadcast. And so we'd like you to just give your responses to these multiple choice questions. So, Dave, if you could just show me the next piece of text, please. Thank you. So the next poll question then is, if an MCBK chapter was established in your geographic region, would you become a member of it? So that's a nice, easy question. And I'm sure you can start filling that in. I'm seeing the numbers flowing through. So keep clicking, keep giving us your answers on that. Okay, keep them coming through. Very good. So this is the, imagine you're a clinician clicking cancel on a clinical decision support alert system, but instead click yes or no here. Well, that'll accelerate the progress of getting the responses through. Okay. Good. Just give you a few more minutes a few more seconds to get that filled in for us. Okay, good, good. Accelerating data input now, that's good. Okay. So before we turn to the next question, here's one to think about if you've already answered the would you join a chapter. So, okay, you've maybe indicated willingness. You said you perhaps would join a chapter. So the follow-on question then is, would you be willing to take a leadership role? Things don't happen without people who are willing to step up and take the lead in certain things and make things happen. So let's turn to that question now. So would you be willing to take a leadership role if that was established as a chapter in your geographic region? Okay. So now we're asking you something. Okay, good. So we're seeing some willing leaders of the future coming forward here. Give you a bit longer. Okay. Well, nobody said no yet. We've got some maybes. Well, that's understandable. We've got some yeses. That's great. Okay, keep them coming. Okay, somebody said no. That's fair enough. We can't all be leaders. Okay. Good. Okay, so just a few more seconds to keep clicking away. Right, so we definitely have some candidates there, and some others who are thinking about it. So that's good. So I don't know if the poll probably doesn't allow us to track you individually, so we won't be directly, personally recruiting you, but it's great to know there is that willingness out there. Okay, so let's draw a line under that last question now. So that's given us some great data to start the next phase of our discussion. So what we're going to do now is close the session on the IBM platform that's been running our plenary session, and we're going to be moving into the Zoom room for the final part of the program. I don't know, Chuck, do you want to say anything before we move into that, or shall we draw a line here?
No, I think we should move now.
Yep. Okay, great. So let's do that. So thank you very much for all of your participation on this platform. We're going to now go and separately join the Zoom conversation, so please join us. The links are available in all the usual places, and we'll be able to then give some reflection on the poll results and get your thoughts on where we go with MCBK Global. So see you very soon in the Zoom session. Thanks very much.